Then Pharaoh gave an order to all his people: throw every baby boy born to the Hebrews into the Nile River, but you can let the girls live. Now a man from Levi's household married a Levite woman. The woman became pregnant and gave birth to a son. She saw that the baby was healthy and beautiful, so she hid him for 3 months. When she couldn't hide him any longer, she took a reed basket and sealed it up with black tar. She put the child in the basket and set the basket among the reeds at the riverbank. The baby's older sister stood watch nearby to see what would happen to him.
Pharaoh's daughter came down to bathe in the river. While her women servants walked along beside the river, she saw the basket among the reeds, and she sent one of her servants to bring it to her. When she opened it, she saw the child. The boy was crying, and she felt sorry for him. She said, "This must be one of the Hebrews' children."
Then the baby's sister said to Pharaoh's daughter, "Would you like me to go and find one of the Hebrew women to nurse the child for you?" Pharaoh's daughter agreed. "Yes, do that." So the girl went and called the child's mother. Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Take this child and nurse it for me, and I'll pay you for your work." So the woman took the child and nursed it. After the child had grown up, she brought him back to Pharaoh's daughter, who adopted him as her son. She named him Moses, because, she said, "I pulled him out of the water."
So today we're continuing in our sermon series, Unraveled, about characters in the Bible who have become unraveled in some sort of way, that have faced adversity and how they have dealt with this. And we've met some more well-known people like the Apostle Thomas and Peter and Paul. We've met some lesser-known characters such as Rizpah. And today I would consider this another maybe overlooked character, the mother of Moses. So overlooked that she's not even given a name in the story. Her name is Jochebed, but we don't read that until the chapter 6 of Exodus, where it gives Moses' genealogy. But be that as it may, the story that we've read is really well known, and you've probably heard it before. But I wanted to go over some context and some of it in case you haven't heard it in a long time. So the Israelites had been living in slavery for quite a long time in Egypt. In one place it says 430 years. Another place it says 1 to 2 generations. So it's kind of unclear. But either way, it's a really long time that they've been enslaved in Egypt. And the Egyptians found them to be a fruitful source of labor and were helping them build with these great building projects. But the Pharaoh becomes concerned about the growing population of the Hebrews and fears that their growing number might be cause for an uprising. And so he takes it into his own hands and makes a decision, tells his midwives to kill the male newborns in order to control the population to avoid this sort of uprising. But we find out that even though that Pharaoh has these expectations that this will fix the Hebrew problem, that God works to unravel these expectations through people like Shea and Puah and Jochebed. Jochebed is this young mother who is caught up in the crossfires of this story, and she does definitely have certain hopes and expectations for her son, as any young mother would. But she quickly realized that she's in a really dangerous situation, that she has to do something. She has to act to save the health and the well-being of her son. So she makes this decision, this incredibly difficult decision. I can't imagine how hard it must have been to give up control, to release her baby, and to set him in a basket. So this word for basket can also be translated as ark. And that ark, there's two places in the Bible where this word ark is used, and the other, of course, is in Noah. And it's no coincidence that this word ark is used in the story of Moses and in the story of the flood, because the underlying assumption is that God is providing salvation for Moses, salvation for the Hebrew people, in fact. And as Jochebed places her baby in the same waters that flooded the earth. Let's not forget how difficult the situation must have been for Jochebed. for any young mother. These, in the face of unraveling expectations, however, she acted in a strong trust and a faith that she had not been abandoned, that her son had not been abandoned, that God was working on their behalf. Later in the story it says, "The daughter of Pharaoh came down to bathe in the river. While her attendants walked beside the river, she saw the basket among the reeds and sent her maid to bring it. When she opened it, she saw the child. She was crying and took pity on him. 'This must be one of the Hebrews' children,' she said." So along with Pharaoh and Jochebed, we have this third character, the princess, who also has her expectations unraveled. And I would say that the expectations that she has is she's been taught her whole life that these Hebrew people are nothing more than slaves, that they're a lesser people, that they're an enemy people. And yet she finds herself having this emotional response to this baby that she finds crying in the basket. So all these expectations of what a Hebrew might be become crumbling down. By order of the Pharaoh, this baby was sentenced to death. Who could have expected, I would say, who could have expected God to be working through the daughter of Pharaoh to defy those orders and to save Moses, to raise him as one of their own? It's pretty remarkable. God works in mysterious and unexpected ways. And sometimes it's years, in fact, the whole younger life of Moses, years before these small and seemingly insignificant moments and decisions add up to something real and to something big. So you might be wondering why I'm sitting in my car and probably look really sweaty because it's one of these 95-degree, really hot days and the windows are closed and the air conditioning's off so you can hear me in the car. But where I'm actually at, let me see here, is College View Elementary, which is kind of hard to see. College View Elementary, where my daughter Maggie goes to school. And I was driving past here the other day, and I began reflecting and thinking about where, the past couple months, where we find ourselves in the future. And this theme of unraveled expectations as well. And perhaps the biggest way that our family, the most acute way our family has faced unraveled expectations was school, and when the schools closed. And I had expectations that Maggie would finish kindergarten like normal, like she would have a summer like any other summer, that she would finish the class with her classmates and with her favorite teacher, Mrs. Pierce. But that didn't turn out the way that we thought it would. And the same goes for Nehemiah. Nehemiah had been at the YMCA for such a long time and loved his teacher, Miss Brenda. And we had, our family was kind of turned upside down when all that closed, as I imagine a lot of families in our church and around our community. Life was significantly altered, and we're still not sure what school and church and all these things are going to look like in the fall. And the only thing that we do know, the only thing that we can agree upon, is that it'll look significantly different. And I have to admit to you, I've been struggling with these changes. I've been struggling to adapt. I have found myself not quite up to the challenge at certain points in time. And at this point and in other points in my life where I'm faced with diversity or situations that are really difficult, I think for me and for a lot of people, our first response is to clamp down on control. If I can control the situation, if I can do something about it, then it'll make me feel better. But we learn in the story of Jochebed and in this COVID pandemic that control isn't always possible. So what do we do then? In the most dire of circumstances, Jochebed finds herself doing the unimaginable, with her sister looking on in disbelief. She fully relinquishes that control that I'm talking about. She control over her son's future, control over whatever might happen to him, his safety. She fully gives that over and trusts in a hope that some benevolent God is working on her behalf, that there might be something better on the other side. So this these themes that I'm talking about, I know we use COVID quarantine as an example because it's right in front of us and something that we're all experiencing at the same time, but these unmet expectations I think we face in a variety of ways in our life all the time on a daily basis, but in the long term, whatever it might be, we're always faced with diversity and things not always going as we plan or we want them to be. And so my questions to you today are we willing to let go of control sometimes? Are we willing to allow things to look different than we might want them to? Are we going to trust in a benevolent force? Are we trusting that Jesus Christ is behind us, working on our behalf? Are we listening? Are we praying? Are we paying attention to the Bible, the biblical testimony, and these people that have become unraveled and how they respond? Are we living in hope? Are we listening to the still small voice that is still speaking in these moments? Because the good news from Jochebed, I believe, is that God is working amidst these situations, that God is working on our behalf. I don't know what school is going to look like in the future. I don't know what church is going to look like in the future. I don't know what our family life is going to look like. But I do know, friends, is that God is present. When the world seems topsy-turvy, upside down and turned around, there is a God. There is Jesus Christ. A man, a spirit abounding in love and in grace that we have, that we can hold on to along with each other as a sense of, as a place of support and growth and getting through all of this together. So my prayer for us today is that we might be listening, that we might be trusting, that we might be willing to set aside our own expectations and control so that something even more beautiful and wonderful could come of it. Amen.